And there came a day unlike any other, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars Comics Daily from Scorcher Hill, hosted by Brian Keown and Matt Wood. From Scorcher Hill, this is Star Wars Comics Daily. I'm Matt Wood.
And I'm Brian Keown.
Welcome to episode 111 of Star Wars Comics Daily, River of Chaos #1. I keep trying to say Rivers of Chaos. It's just one river. River
it's
of
just
Chaos
one.
#1.
There's plenty of chaos in that one river.
Exactly. This was released June 6th, 1995.
It was written by Louise Simonson, penciled by June Brigman, inked by Roy Richardson, colored by Roy Nestel, lettered by Steve Dutrow. Editor was good old Ryder Wyndham, and the cover's by Brigman and Richardson.
Colorist is Dave Nestel, not Roy Nestel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I must have just typed that in wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Dave.
Yeah.
I was all excited about Roy's.
I'm not familiar with Dave Nestel. I know Roy Richardson is June Brigman's husband, right? But also
yes,
he's
right.
He's an inker.
Yes, he's the inker. That Brenda Starr strip, I think they all do together.
Yeah.
Or they did do. I don't think they do it anymore.
I never read Brenda Starr. I know that
I
people
didn't
liked
either,
it, but no.
She was on it for a long. Just looking at her Wikipedia, she was on it from 1995 to 2011.
Holy cow! Wow.
Yeah,
Good
and
for
then
her.
it says in 2016 she switched to Mary Worth. So I don't know if she's still working on it or not. But
I feel like Mary Worth is a step up from Brenda Starr, right?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I know Brenda Starr probably more. Like I don't even know what the premise of Mary Worth is.
I barely.
But Brenda Starr is at least like a reporter and stuff. Like didn't they make a movie with what's her name?
Is this what we're talking about?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Instead of Power Pack or something, at least
right? Yeah,
sort of ties into something. Because this is basically the creative team for Power Pack. I don't think Roy Richardson was the inker for that book, but or at least in the beginning.
Yeah, maybe not in the beginning, but I would be very surprised if something tells me that's probably where June Brigman met.
Let's see.
Roy Richardson.
His name is too.
Ramona Fradon did a Brenda Starr for life from like 1980 to 95. That surprised me. Good for her.
Makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense. Ramona Fradon is very much kind of that style. But enough about Brenda Starr. What are you looking up?
I was just looking up, trying to get to Roy Richardson's stupid Wikipedia page to find out if he was on Power Pack or not.
I'm going to say Roy Richardson probably was.
This is not the same Roy Richardson. It's too basic a name, so whatever. All right, we'll say he was, although I kind of think he wasn't, but whatever.
I'm looking it up now, just because.
Okay. I mean, I guess I could just look at Power Pack, but
talk about I don't know, Power Pack.
Power Pack was like a group of kid superheroes. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and it was a family, and they all had powers. They got powers from a alien horse person. Yeah, Bob Wycheck inked at least.
Yeah, son of a gun, you were right. Roy Richardson has only done one Power Pack issue, and that was like a holiday special, which is probably well after the fact. That surprises me.
I would be surprised if that newer one they did like last year. He probably
sure.
that.
Yeah. But because I don't think June Brigman puts anything out now that Roy Richardson doesn't.
Sure, I agree. Yeah.
It's very much a Terry and Rachel Dotson, Louise and Walt Simonson situation where, like, yeah, of course we're going to work together. Even though I take that back about Louise and Walt, because I don't know if they've ever really done anything together.
They've done at least some. Like, I know that Havoc and Wolverine miniseries they wrote together. And it was more like it would. Well, and obviously X Factor. He did the art for X Factor for a long time.
Oh yeah, and she was writing X Factor.
Yeah, she was writing X Factor, and he was doing the art. Yeah, because Louise Simonson, she's a big time. She was the editor on the X-Men forever. Like when Claremont was the writer for the most part, and
she killed Superman.
And then killed Superman, created Power Pack, wrote X Factor forever, wrote New Mutants for a long time. She's one of those people who's probably, written just about every major Marvel and DC character at some
Are
point.
worked on in some capacity. Editor. She was an editor for years, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's just kind of been all over, and she's. Well, we've talked about the Simonsons before, and if we haven't, then you probably know about them. They're great.
Yep, they're awesome.
But yeah, here we go. A Star Wars comic. Not necessarily what I would think would be the. I thought this would be very Leia focused, and I think it probably still has some room to be, but it is not yet.
Yeah, aside from like Admiral Akbar, she's the only main Star Wars character in this first issue for sure.
Okay, well, we're 6 minutes into this. We got to talk about what happens in this comic.
Okay. M. Haley, I guess is what I'm going to call it, or Mahaley, whichever one, is a planet that has a population split between humans and a reptilian race called the Hadrachi. Chino, just how I'm going to say her name, is a Hadrachi who can see the fates of time in something she calls the time stream. She finds a human baby, a baby whose fate is wrapped up in her own. 17 years later...
Wait. Chino's a guy.
Huh?
Chino's a guy.
She knows a guy?
Chino is a guy. Not a lady.
I thought she calls her a mother later.
I think they say that Chino's a fella. Because, like, Chino's, like, protecting...
Okay.
Yeah. Chino's a dude.
Well, she does. Yeah, I guess she says father. Whatever. Chino needs to, dress more like a man then.
Oh boy.
Okay. Whatever. All right. Chino's a man. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Anyway, 17 years later, TIE pilot Lieutenant Ranulph Traumer takes part in a raid against a rebel subaquatic base on Aguilar 3.
Yeah.
Prince Leia and Admiral Akbar use the base's defenses to destroy the TIE bomber squadron, but Traumer is able to bomb the base's launch bay and escape back to his Star Destroyer. Traumer is hailed as a hero and reassigned to M. Haley. There's been unrest on the planet, and there's a rumor that an heir of a former ruling house is leading a revolt. Traumer is not excited about this new position as a spy. He wants to be a pilot. On M. Haley, the baby, named Mora, has grown up and works in a repair shop. Outside the shop, an Imperial squadron attacks a nearby home that is hiding some rebels. The Imperials capture one of the rebels, who tells them that the royal heir is well hidden. Back at Mora's shop, 2 humans ask her to secretly convert their swoops into military specs, and she is excited to help the rebels. On a separate mission, Leia gets word of the unrest on M. Haley and is even told directly about Chino and Mora. Lieutenant Traumer reports for duty and has to fight his way down to the planet through some rebel X-Wings. Down at the Imperial garrison, he is tasked with investigating the possibility that the Hadrachi have started helping the human rebels. He is specifically ordered to contact Mora. He gets to her shop and then is attacked by some stormtroopers. They beat him, calling him a rebel, and Mora joins in to help. Luckily, the owners of the swoops show up and blast the stormtroopers, and Leia introduces herself. Leia, Mora, Chino, and a few others swoop away with the unconscious Lieutenant Traumer.
I have to confess, Brian, this comic took me like 2 sittings to get through.
It was really hard to, like, it's really simple story, like we talked about just a little bit beforehand. Like, it's either like I know exactly where it's going, or it's like, haha, we've subverted your expectations, and it's all this, Because
Right.
I mean, it seems like obviously Mora is the heir to the rulers. Obviously, she's gonna fall in love with Lieutenant Traumer, and they're gonna, have like a Romeo and Juliet type deal.
It was Lost Stars before there was Lost Stars.
Exactly right. That feels exactly where we're going, and if we are, that's fine. It's a nice, because unlike, say, like Legacy, where there's so much stuff coming at you, the story is also complex, so that's hard to keep up with. This story's easy enough that if you kind of just think about what's going on, you can kind of figure it out.
But it has a huge cast.
Yes, I had to go through the summary twice to get it kind of into some sort of explanation that I could deal with, and even then I missed that Chino is a dude.
Right. It's a huge cast for what is essentially a 4-issue miniseries,
Yeah.
maybe 5. Yeah,
presumably none of these characters show up ever again.
No, yeah, that's the thing where yeah, it feels almost, and they're not bad characters.
Yeah, no, that's like I said, I enjoyed it. It's just it seems kind of obvious, but I think, like I said, I think that helps make all the info dump that we get in this first issue a little easier to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy decisions where it's like, okay, like, the baby is part of that prophecy that they talk about, like,
yeah,
like, I don't know, I kind of hope that it doesn't necessarily go in every single direction that I feel like it's going to go in,
right.
But
right, like maybe we'll do a thing where they think Moore is the heir to the ruler, and then someone else will show up and it's that person or something. Right, yeah.
Which we'll get to Widget later. I want to talk a little bit about Widget, but yeah, I love I love the art in this comic. Like, June Brigman's no slouch.
Yeah, she's great.
This is a cool comic. The cover's kind of, actually, I'm gonna say this too. Good cover, because you're showing the strong heroine. She gets the foreground, like she gets like the focal point of attention in the cover. You get the Imperial doofus TIE fighter pilot getting the crap beaten out of him. Yeah. And then Leia's coming in the back to save them all. Exactly, yeah. I think it's cool. That is a super tall stormtrooper.
It is very tall, yeah.
But
I mean, she is kind of hunched back a little bit, but I think if he stood over her, he'd be like 2 feet taller than her.
I would say, aren't you a little too tall?
Right.
To be a stormtrooper. But no, I'm definitely into this. I don't necessarily. At one point, Leia is, when they talk about the time stream stuff, she's like, "Oh, Force users," and I kind of wanted just either don't really get into it or a solid confirmation. But like whoever she's talking to is like, "No, not really."
Right.
I'm like, well, they have to be, because I can only handle so much mysticism. It all has to kind of boil down into the Force for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I would imagine it's, this is just an aspect of the Force that's all the only bit that Chino has access to. And it's a little different than what, say, Anakin would have or something.
Sure. There are some other things in this comic that I feel are real weird decisions. Like, I don't know. I think for me, the Imperial is a very strict, rigid kind of thing. And like you see like this party where, and that's just a weird decision to me. But, and also how like the pilots are talking to each other, and like I'm sure that is the case. But
yeah, it weird. Seems a little looser than we see the Empire usually.
Yeah, like
even like in what was the squadron that tied into that game?
Oh, dang, dude, Black Squad? No,
that's
Inferno Squad.
Yeah, Inferno. Yeah. Like even they seemed quite a bit more rigid than these guys.
Yeah. These guys seem really, oddly relaxed and
yeah. And at the party, there's a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but there's aliens there, which seems really weird.
Oh yeah, you're right, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that is bizarre because
the Empire is very human centric.
But.
Like if they
you tell us, audience. I very, obviously because that's all we see in the movie. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the EU Empire was a little bit more loosey goosey when it came to that. But I feel like the Empire very much in current continuity, they are viewed as a little bit more xenophobic.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But there's like a hut there. That's weird.
Right, like if they were on a planet, that would be fine. But they're on a Star Destroyer. It seems weird that you'd have that many weird aliens.
Yeah. What's this guy's name? The TIE pilot, the handsome boy.
His name is Ranulph Trommer.
Ranulph, that's right. His dad is like.
Yeah, his dad is a governor or something, or an ambassador or something.
Yeah.
Or he's an admiral. Sorry.
Yeah, man. These. Oh, dang it! I had the comics bold for me.
Oh, are you flipping ahead?
No, I was trying to look up information on, and it's let's just say it goes exactly where you think it does.
I figured.
There is something to be said, I think, for the interesting relationship of like an alien that adopts like a human, or we don't see that too much in Star Wars, and I think that's we see kind of like. Like for example, Iden Versio, speaking of Inferno Squad, like her daughter is got like a surrogate father in like the Duros that raises her, and like there's small things, but I think there's definitely room for that in Star Wars.
Sure.
That's a big component of like fantasy. Here we are once again giving away good ideas. But here's June Brigman and Louise Simonson giving away a great idea.
Right, we did that 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. But I do feel like it overcomplicates things, and when the alien's like, "Oh, I can see into the future."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, the time stream becomes a river of chaos, dude.
I do very much like the. Oh yeah, I was waiting for like, where is this river?
They say it on the last page.
Last page, yeah. But what was I going to say? I do like the story beat of Mora not being like really accepted by either group. Like the humans don't really like her, and like because that's a real thing with like mixed race kids,
sure,
kids that are adopted and stuff like that. So.
Again, like you said, it's a beat in fantasy stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and then it's oddly enough, like talk about Star Wars that has taken every trope and beaten it to death. Right. Like this is one that I don't think they touch on too often.
Yeah.
Which is especially crazy because Star Wars does not shy away from things like race and prejudice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So. June Brigman draws a really good Leia.
She draws a really good Leia. That ATST looks really awesome.
Yeah.
Like I like the way that looked.
Yeah, there's not much in here that I don't like. To the point where, I kind of wish I would bump into June Brigman on another convention. I haven't seen her since Comic Conway.
Yeah.
All those years ago, and even then, that's not even where I got my commission. You picked up my commission from her from like Heroes Con back in like 2015 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Widget.
Okay.
Because clearly Louise Simonson has done her homework. They mention things like the TIE fighter not being able to take off into hyperspace. Or hyperspeed.
Yeah, because he's like, I wish we could follow them, but we can't because we're TIE fighters.
I cheered for that. Don't worry about it. But first of all, Widget, like, that's a great robot name, but in Star Wars, robot names are created,
letters
after
and
their
numbers.
designation, and you just kind of come up with a fun name. And I don't think you can get that with Widget.
No, it's also kind of close to Wicket, and of course there is a Widget in Excalibur as well.
Another thing I'm not a big fan of with Widget is Widget wears a little like bandana.
Yeah.
That brought me to like I was sitting there thinking, how come we don't ever see like a droid dressed up?
Yeah, it definitely feels like Mora probably tied that on him because it looks cute or something. I'm sure that he wasn't like, I need a little ribbon or whatever.
And like I don't have a problem really with that. It's the point like I'm kind of into it, but that made me think like, why don't we see that more often in Star Wars? Like,
Yeah.
I want to see like a protocol droid like wearing a shirt. The only thing I could think of was like General Grievous's like bodyguards. They wear like cloaks.
Yeah.
But that's I can't think of another droid that wears clothing.
I mean, C-3PO wore a cloak in Rise of Skywalker for a minute, but
That's true, and I did like that.
yeah.
Huh. And it looked weird.
Yeah. Hey, you'd think he'd be walking around with a trench coat and a hat on or a fedora on more often.
Yeah, I mean, Widget's weird, but
Yeah.
he doesn't not look good in that bandana.
Sure.
I don't know. What do you got? I got stuff, but
Yeah. I don't know. What am I looking at next?
what did you think of the little Rebel Civil War era tent on an asteroid?
Oh, yeah. That was very weird.
Seemed like the worst little hideout to have.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, that's another one. It's like that issue of Star Wars with 25 or whatever, and they're like, we're hiding on this asteroid to spy on these ships. It's just like, that's weird.
yeah. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But I'm sure they have a reason. But yeah, I thought it seemed just really bizarre. But I mean, it's like, are there more rebels that do that? That's
And the guy that's giving her information is very specific, like, oh, there's this dude named Chino.
Yeah.
He's got this daughter, and,
to the point where he knows whether or not, like, the whole time stream thing is or is not
right.
the Force.
Yeah.
And as he says, it is not.
Well, he says unlikely.
Unlikely, yeah. I don't even want to hear him say that.
I mean, I'm like you. I assume it's some aspect of the Force, but he's not, like, swinging a lightsaber around and moving stuff with his mind and stuff.
I have to say that it has to be. It has to be some kind of thing with the Force, because I don't have time to have my mind wrapped around.
Right.
I don't need that.
Well, I mean, are the Night Sisters in the Clone Wars? Are they actually
that's got to be the Force. That's got to be the Force.
Yeah,
no, I've never heard it said whether or not it is.
Yeah.
That's got to be, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen those in a while, so I don't remember. But that's off the top of my head, that's the other kind of magic that I can think of.
We see a Night Sister in Jedi Fallen Order, and that very much...
That definitely seemed like she was using the Force.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. It has to be, though, right?
I would assume. I mean, if we're going with the idea that the Force flows through everything, I would assume any kind of mysticism is Force-based in some
right.
way.
And like, I honestly, I kind of like that, because it's it's the acknowledgement of the thing exists, but the understanding of it, that's where, like, people can differ and have different viewpoints, and I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it basically means, like, in Star Wars, like, there really is, like, one religion, but there's a lot of different, like, say, denominations of that religion.
Right.
And I think that's very... I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, and then there's the jerks who just believe it's all midichlorians.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Those are what, Christian Scientists or whatever.
Right.
Did we see Rahan, Padan's son, get killed? We have one of the goat guys run in and like say, "Hey, your son got killed," and he like cries, and it's beautiful. We don't actually see that happen, though, right?
I don't guess so, unless he was in that building that got attacked earlier by the ATSD.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just... Well, I don't know. The dude with the mustache is there when the... I don't know. I mean, we definitely didn't see that specific one get killed, but he might have been. I think I'm kind of looking back. I kind of think maybe he was in that attack.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like how he has a little mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I do like the governor dude is in the next when he's talking to Tromer and he's like, all right, you're gonna go infiltrate this thing, and he's like, and we're gonna need you to take something into a shop, and he's like, what are you gonna do? And then he just blows away his protocols right. He's like, there you go.
That's pretty good, because I mean that's always it. I like that. I like that. Not only does that happen, but the droid like talks.
Right, because the Tromber's like, well, the droid's gonna tell him, that you shot him. Like, nah, make sure to wipe his memory before you take him over there.
Right.
So when he wakes up, the droid's like, I don't know what happened, but I got shot, I guess.
I also want to wear clothes because apparently that one little droid can wear clothes. Can I do that too?
No.
No. Yeah. We don't have any more scarves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like how for Troman or whatever his name is, Tromer, that's like his first sign of like. Well, I mean, I think he was already suspicious, but like he's that's like maybe this guy isn't on the level. So, well, yeah, man. Of course he's not. So I was really curious about swoop bikes and when their first appearance was.
Mm-hmm.
And I am pretty pleasantly surprised. Swoop bikes, because the first time I ever heard of a swoop bike was Shadows of the Empire, mostly because there was a toy of the swoop bike.
Yeah.
But apparently a swoop bike is older than Star Wars, but is not older than Star Wars. That doesn't make sense.
I was gonna say
it's younger than Star Wars, but older than Empire Strikes Back. And it first appears in the novel by Brian Daley, Han Solo's Revenge.
Ooh, I have one of those somewhere.
Yeah, so that was kind of a fun little thing. I guess someone read that book and thought, well, these things are just so darn cool that of course we have to incorporate them into Star Wars as much as possible.
Totally sure what the difference is between a swoop bike and a speeder bike. I mean, they don't look. I mean, I guess they're flying them up in the sky, which it didn't look like you could really do on Endor. So maybe that's what it is.
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's very similar to a speeder bike. In fact, it was in essence simply an overpowered version and described as an engine with a seat.
Okay.
Swoops were to speeder bikes what air speeders were to land speeders, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were often used by gangs and criminals in such organizations before the mantle of swoop gang. They bore the mantle of swoop gang. So there you go.
So basically, they can just fly, whereas land speed or speed bikes
they can fly in the sense of say a snow speeder can fly.
Yeah,
but I don't think it can go into space.
No, I don't think. Well, obviously, it's totally open, but I mean, it could go high, whereas a speeder bike can't.
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like Widget changes sizes quite often.
You're very focused on Widget. I barely even noticed Widget.
Oh, that's worse.
I got bigger problems. Like I'm like when the stormtroopers show up and just start beating the crap out of Tromer. It's like for a minute I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I guess they didn't mention to him that they were gonna have to beat him up so that Mora would jump in and save him.
No, no. Because what's his name? The governor. He's purposely sabotaging this thing because he's got something shady going on that he doesn't want the other empire. He doesn't want the empire at large to. So
the stormtroopers were supposed to kill Tromer then.
I honestly don't think they know who Tromer is. I don't think.
Right, they definitely think he's just a rebel.
Yeah.
Because there's the rebel scum. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I figured out why Mora is such a good mechanic.
Why is that?
Because she has 5 fingers, whereas everyone else has 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to be better at handiwork if you have
more fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that makes sense.
That's a huge benefit. I feel bad for Leia because Leia has to drive off with Chono Back. Mora gets her own bike with Sleepy.
Unconscious Tromer.
Yeah.
Which is weird because actually, in the panel before that, he's walking around, but then when they take off, he looks like he's completely unconscious.
Oh yeah. Oh well, he lost a lot of blood. I mean, that thing's bleeding out pretty bad.
Yeah.
Little Widget also has to take up a whole seat.
Yeah, he rides with that other girl that originally commissioned the swoop bike.
Yep. I don't have anything else. This is a crazy, wacky issue.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm interested to see where it goes. Assuming, well, I mean, I know where it goes, but
yeah. I mean, just how it gets there. That's
yeah. It's the journey. It's the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at Star Wars Legacy number 28, and we're going to be starting issue 9 of the Vector story, a mini-series in
a crossover
in the Star Wars comics. We're not going to be looking at issues 1 through 8, at least not for a long, long time. But that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're not going to. Yep. It's not overly important. Brian went ahead and read them. And,
I read it, so I'll give. I mean, there's a pretty good synopsis actually in the comic book, but we'll talk about it tomorrow.
But we'll get there tomorrow. All right. From Star Wars Comics Daily, I'm Matt Wood.
And I'm Brian Keown.
And until tomorrow, may the Force be with you.